Hey there, guys. Rochelle here with Amethyst Ascension. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are returning, thank you so much for joining me again. So today I am doing a hashtag, and it is called It Takes a Village. And it was created by the beautiful Dawn Michelle over at Boho Tarot. And I'm showing you this because I have a whole line of decks that I wanted to talk about that fit within this tag. And I'm doing it just a little bit different. I decided to take two decks for each one of the prompts because I love Oracle as much as I love tarot. So I'm doing an Oracle and a tarot deck for each prompt. So I am going to put my camera, let me show you some of the hardware that I use. Like the lights, see the lights? And I have an overhead that clamps onto that. So I'm going to put the camera, that's my little list, I'm going to put the camera up overhead and we'll get started. Okay, so the first prompt, and essentially what this tag is about is showing the decks that make up your specific village, right? And I will be putting a link down below to Dawn Michelle's channel and this original video. And I think I might have seen this the first time with Cortney. I'm not sure. I can't believe that I missed it on Dawn Michelle's channel. But I've been sick. It might have been at the time that I was in bed for a few days with the aches and pains and all that, and just binge watching probably Netflix or something. Who knows? But, excuse me. So the first tag, or the first prompt, is the guide. It's that your personal decks. So as I said, I'm going to show you a tarot and an oracle for each. I think there's one of them that I have 3 in because I couldn't rule it down to any more than that. But I also want to put a little disclaimer here that, you know what, many of these decks fall into some, if not all, of these areas, okay? So the first one for the guide and personal decks, I chose the Everyday Witch. Oops, sorry, and I got hair here. And the Magic and Mediums Oracle. These are wonderful guides for me that I love to pull out. The Everyday Witch was the first deck that I got where it really started clicking, because I also click with being a witch, and I don't even know if at that point I was really even deeming myself a witch. It was probably something more newer when I got this deck, but I had been on that path. So these cards just really spoke to me. And I'm not really big on like cartoony, like artwork, but I really love this. I really enjoy the artwork, and I love the books, and it just honestly felt like, for the first time in my tarot journey, that it was starting to click for me and really make sense. And although I don't know if these really go together too much, I mean, I suppose they could. This is another deck that I use for just like, if it's a guide even about like my craft, or whether I should do it this way or I should do it this way if I'm of two minds on something, which is very common for me. I mean, honestly, I teeter. I go between, well, should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? Or it's just a common theme for me. So the book and the Magic and Mediums is so friggin' good. I love the artwork. It just speaks to me. And you know what? I think they do go together. I actually like that. I'm not upset with that. But when I need a quick answer or to feel like I am being guided even by like my ancestors or even previous witches that have come before, even if they're not in my lineage, I feel like I get that through these decks. And ultimately, everything for me is mundane and spiritual and magical. I see the magic in everything. I see the purpose and the lesson in everything. So when I look at life as a bigger picture kind of thing, not just, oh, this thing is happening to me, but I ask myself, why is this thing happening to me? You know, when I have a dream, I ask myself, why did I have that dream? Was it something psychological that I was just going through? Or am I getting a message from an ancestor, which I've had very many of those, where I actually have my previous loved ones who have passed come to me in dreams with messages, and I heed to those messages big time, because my dreams have proven to me over and over again that they happen. So it is for me to take adherence, you know, to listen. That's what I think listening to your intuition is really about, because I think we all get it. And I think the more that we listen, and when I say listen, I mean consciously listening, making that effort to really hear the message, not just hearing with my ears, but hearing with my heart and my mind in unison. So anyways, excuse me. So those are my two choices for my guide, you know, like my personal decks. I feel so personally pulled to both of those decks because of, I guess, just really what kind of guidance I usually seek and from where I feel like I'm getting those answers. Is it the inner witch in me, or is it from a witch energy, you know, or is it from one of the witches in my lineage? So yeah, it just, I don't have to question. I always understand. So it is a beautiful guide for me. Now, I'm sorry. Let me take a drink really quick. All right, so still fighting this. It might be allergies. It might be allergies, and I've never had allergies before, but it might be that too. This back and forth weather. It's just craziness. So the second prompt is the Caregiver. And these are the decks that give you like support. Not necessarily a hug deck, but a support deck. They're going to give you the message that you need to have, but they're going to do it in a way where it doesn't feel so confrontational that you just say, I'm not even going there. I'm avoiding this. No, it's about a message that supports you on your journey while still giving it to you in truth. You know what I mean? Because that's essentially, I always want the truth, but give it to me softly, because the reason I'm coming to the cards anyways, 9 times out of 10, is because I have a either an anxiety about something, or a worry about something, or just a major need to know. So I need to be handled with these messages that just I ponder on for like ever, with kid gloves sometimes. So that is the Light Seers and the Roots and Wings. I absolutely, oh my goodness, I adore this deck so much. And I don't know as if these really pair up either. I guess we shall see. Sorry about that. Oh, you know what? I could see that. I think I could see that. And this is the indie version. And I have to say, I take so much comfort, especially when I am reading for myself. I don't always use the books, but when it is a deck that comes with a really good book, I use the book. I love the guidance that comes from that book. And so this particular, the indie version of the Light Seers, the book is so phenomenal. Not that it's not good in the mass market version, but in my opinion, it's so much better in this version because there's more things to it. But I love this deck. This was the first deck that really helped me to integrate the shadow and the light side of each card because of the way the book was written, by the way that she, and I mean Chris-Anne, by the way that she explains things. This deck is definitely, and I've said this many times for many years now, this is one of my soul decks. I have many soul decks. And to me, a soul deck was really about creating such a strong impact for me that I learned valuable things and it is in my mind. So, you know, unlike my first deck, which, I mean, I do still have. I thought I didn't. I found it. I do have it. But those images do not stick out in my mind. These images of this deck, and I had several decks before this one, this really sticks in my mind. And the book, the meanings from Chris-Anne stick in my mind because it was very influential to me. So it gives me such support. And then the roots and the wings, oh my gosh. And this is just the opposite kind of. It only comes with a very short printout, right? For the cards. But that short bit is so natural and organic. And it just, gosh, it just touches me in the feels. It just makes me look at the bigger picture. It makes me look at nature and the way that I see things. You know, it really is very comforting to me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not upset with this pairing either. I think it looks really good. Yeah. I love the artwork with this, but I equally love this artwork. I love the simplicity of this. And although these do not feel simplistic to me, they still feel soft and, what is the word? Just understanding, you know, understanding. So yeah. Okay, so the next prompt is for the Muse, or Muse, which is Creative Work Deck. So for me, that was the Bonestone and Earth Flesh by Anaturian and Evelyn Cameron. And also another one of Chris-Anne's decks for the Oracle. It's the Sacred Creators Oracle. So I am such a person of color. Color is so inspirational to me, and nature, and that's probably why it's the colors for me, because, and why my favorite color is green. It's not, my favorite color is not green because of money. My favorite color is green because of nature and all the different trees and grass. There's so many different even shades of grass. There's so many different shades of foliage, and gosh, nature is just so, so beautiful. And it is one of the things, even with my jewelry, when I would make my jewelry, it was the tone on tone on tone that would, like the different shades of green or the different shades of purple, or like red and purple, how they would work together. It was those combinations, and also seeing those combinations in, like, look at those in nature that always inspire my art. So, at least in the jewelry part, but it's also nature, because I think one of the other things that drew me to witchcraft and crafting in general is also like herbs and botanicals and people and clothing and objects. Just there's so much beauty to be had. And these colors just inspire that. But on top of that, the book, the different things that Avalon Cameron talks about in the book are just so incredibly good. And even look at that. It is an amazing book. It just inspires me big time. And this makes me want to do some magic, okay? How can that not make me want to do some magic? This deck just this makes me want to go out into the moon, and just put my head up to the sky and just feel the pull of Luna, Grandmother Moon. And then the other side of that is this artwork, and her book inspires me, but the Sacred Creators Oracle, it inspires me with its simplicity. It's like leading you. It gives you like just the most simple yet profound messages. This is one of my all-time favorite decks, period, hands down. I love Chris Ann. I just love her so much. I love how her mind works. I love how she expresses herself. And it's not just her mind, it's her heart. I feel like she's a very balanced individual, and it shows in the work that she puts out. So this is a huge inspiration to me when I need to feel inspired about, like, what is my next move? I'm feeling stagnant. What should I do? What area of life should I look in? And also at the same time, it lifts you up. But the colors, even the colors, speak volumes. Because one of the things that I even forgot to mention, and I was going to, but I just get so easily sidetracked, squirrel mind, in my Trad Witch tag, was one of my other huge inspirations for becoming a witch was when I was making my jewelry and all of the different healing properties and magical properties of the gemstones. Learning that opened up a whole other area for me, because that's also when I discovered about the chakras, because I used to make chakra bracelets and prayer beads, and it just and the color. So when I would make my necklaces and or bracelets or jewelry or whatever, I would also put on my tags, a big old tag and a write-up in the back, not only would I name my big pieces, but I would also put like what the color associations are for, let's say red, if there's red in it, what associations, emotional associations, and or analytical associations or magical associations go along with that, as well as the properties. So when people were buying a piece of my jewelry, they weren't just buying the jewelry for what it looked like. They were buying the jewelry for also what those properties could bring to their life. How, I mean, it was like each one, before I even realized I was a witch, was like spell work all within itself. So the colors and the simple messages are so profound that it sends me into more creative energy. It spurs me on, especially when we become stagnant. I mean, like, look at that. How can it not? Masterpiece, right? So color is a big, big part of it for me. What inspires me. And nature and affirmations and one word sometimes. Just one word. If it's the right word with the colored background, is so inspiring. Okay, so the next prompt is the counselor, and this is a family deck. So when I think of family, and I held out on this deck for a really long time, and I just want to say that I believe that the culprit initially was, even though I had her book, which I showed also in that previous video of, the traditional witch tag or trad witch tag. I showed that I had the grimoire, the Green Witch Grimoire by Anne Mora. And I love it so much. And I didn't get this for the longest time because I had the Everyday Witch, so I thought it was all one or the other. But they really do fit differently for me. They're both very different energies for me. This one seems more like, the other one seems like more just an everyday witch that could be following any kind of path. This one is very much about the earth and about the beauty that the earth provides for our natural practices. And so when I think of my family, I think of my grandma, who, my mom's mom, who, I found out afterwards, really, that she was a witch. And I believe that she was a green witch. I believe that she used herbs because there's a couple of things that I got that I wanted from my mom after my grandma died. And these are the two things that I got. And I love them and I cherish them. And one is the Green Pharmacy. And these were both copywritten in 1997. My grandma died in the 2000s. And the Doctor's Book of Food Remedies. So I believe, although my grandma was not the greatest cook, she was not, I do believe that she had a learning or a lust for learning more about herbal remedies and the kind of food to eat if she had this kind of ailment or whatever. And on top of that, in this book, I have a letter that I found after the fact, after I got it, that my grandma had written. And it's her penmanship, and I'll never forget her penmanship, or her hands, or anything. My grandma's name was Dolores Hawkins. That was her married name. But she was originally an Ames. She married my grandpa, and a Gaffigan before that. But also, many of you know that I had a lump on my nose several years ago. It started, and they thought it was possibly cancer on my nose, and I got cut off. But before I went to the doctor, I used frankincense and myrrh essential oils on my nose for like 90 days, and it really just kills whatever. And when she, it's said to kill cancer. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I cannot prescribe anything. Please, don't use my what I've done as anything for yourself. But after using that, and when she looked at it, she thought it was cancer, but after getting it cut off and cauterized, it was not cancer because it was quite large. So if it had previously been cancer, I think I cured it myself by using green witchcraft. And I learned more about it from that green pharmacy book as well as looking online. So when I think of that, I think of the Green Witch. It makes me think of the family and my lineage, but also my great-grandmother Ames, on my mom's side, of course, still, but from my grandpa's side. And the other deck, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like all over the place, is the herbal astrology deck. That's another thing. It makes me think of my grandma also because my grandma loved astrology. I don't think she was into it. I don't know for sure, but I don't think she was into it like I was. But she, with her coffee every morning, would, look at the horoscopes in the newspaper, And so I swear that she loved it so much that she would do everything in her day unconsciously in order to make that come true so that she could say, see how correct astrology is. And I think unconsciously as a mass consciousness, we do that because it is such a part of our culture. And for some more than others. But my great-grandmother, my grandpa's mom, she also was a midwife back in her younger years, and maybe even a little bit older. And she was a good cook, and she canned. That's what my family did. They would can, and that they would go hunting. There was always, where I grew up, when hunting season would start, all the men in the family would take off, even the boys would take off, and they would go hunting. And the women would all gather at my grandma Ames's house, my great-grandma Ames's house. And I remember me and my cousins and my sister and stuff, we would go out back in my grandma's garden, and she had just like a big long row of Concord grapes. And they would tell us not to eat them, but we would, the grapes were so tall, like the hedges, that we would like sneak down behind them and just sit there and just eat the grapes, the Concord grapes. And oh my gosh, they were just so good. So I also think of that. I think of that as my family. That herbal stuff. And when I think of herbs, I also think of food. And my family, whenever we would have, because it was a big family, whenever we would get together for anything, like holidays and stuff like that, there was always big gatherings. It got to the point where after all of my mom's brothers and sisters started having children themselves, and why I have so many cousins, that we couldn't do our family get-togethers, Christmases or Thanksgivings. We couldn't do them at anybody's house anymore. We had to rent out halls. And these halls would just be, there would be so many people. It was just the best feeling ever, being able to hang out with your cousins and just talk about stuff. And many of the cousins were all around the same age or varying ages, so everyone had somebody that was like good friends. We grew up with our cousins. But the thing was, there was always people would bring passing dishes. It would be like potluck meals. It wouldn't just be put on one person. It wouldn't be just my grandma who would do it. It would be all of her children, and even the older ones, as they would get older, the cousins and stuff, they would bring passing dishes. So even like when we would have family reunions and stuff, that's what we would do, is everyone bring a passing dish or a couple passing dishes. Or if there was too many things of food, then people would bring like paper plates or cups or silverware, whatever, plastic silverware. And that's how we would do it. And also to help with paying for like the halls and parks that we would have to rent out for these large occasions, we would have like white elephant auctions so people could make stuff or buy something that would be auctioned off to other family members in order to help pay for the places. So these decks, it's it comes back to like nature and greenery and the herbal stuff that makes me think of my family. And I really had to think about that. And traditions and love. I feel so much love that comes from the earth and what the earth provides. And plus some of my family members, like aunts and uncles, also were big farmers. So, you know, they would bring in crops and stuff like that and work their land for a long time. And that just also feels very earthy and green witch to me, you know. And oh my gosh, like old wives' tales and stuff that my grandma would pass down, and remedies, you know, like when I had like stomach flu and stuff like that, they would talk about the Coke syrup that you would go get from the pharmacy. It was more or less like taking Coke syrup or like letting your Coca-Cola sit out for a while until it got stale but really thick, and then drinking that down, and it would help with curbing when you got stomach flu really bad. Just stuff like that. And like if you had a fever, to rub stuff on the feet, or using like Vicks or a hot toddy. If you had a cold, they would say take a little bit of like a liquor, like a what is the word? Like an alcohol, like a rum or a gin or something like that. Mix it with a little bit of hot water and lemon and honey, and that was a hot toddy. You would drink it down if you had a cold, a chest cold or whatever. It would help relieve it. Just like old wives' tales and stuff like that, you know, remedies. That's what I remember about my family. So these decks really make me feel closer to my family members. So, all right, moving on. Okay, so, and I'm sorry this is going to be a little bit longer because there's so many decks, so much to say. So the next one is the Priestess slash Mystic and Spiritual Work deck. So I actually have 3 that I wanted to include with this, and that is the Shimmering Veil Tarot, and oh no, do I have 2 for this one? Yes. And a Compendium of Witches Oracle. So this feels like getting advice from, or when I really want to do spiritual work, because I see like, I mean, look at that for the High Priestess, right? This one feels so abstract that it's not like always, how do I say this? Although it has like your associations down here, the first thing that I do when I look at this deck is I look at the artwork and what does it say to my intuition? You know, what do the colors say? What do like the shadows and the figures, the because they're not always so clear. It's like what you would see on an energy realm. You know, if you could see past everything that is mundane, like all the real details, and get to like the heart of what spirituality is for me, which is like energy. This feels like that energy work that is, I am using my inner priestess or my inner mystic to travel through what these intuitive messages are telling me. you know. So this deck definitely, the Shimmering Veil Tarot by Silicon Way. This is definitely the tarot deck. And the Compendium of Witches, which is so beautiful. This is a Kickstarter. I got it on Kickstarter. This one is like talking to other witches and other explorers and scientists and shamans, and like look at laborer, the listener, the hermit, the stargazer, so ancient astrologers, the ancient scholar, and then of course all of these simple yet profound, yet again, symbols or items, the explorer, the crossroads. Now, I have to be honest, the artist, when I use this deck, I mainly use this deck with these. I don't normally use the white ones, the white cards, which are the objects. I usually use the journey and messages from these other witches and the messages that they have. I love it. It talks about the witch, and then it talks about the message. Vision, second sight, otherworldly, seeing the hidden. So I look at this as that spiritual high priestess who has come before, or that witch or explorer or astrologer, or whatever, that has come before, that has given me the solid advice that I need. Or it shows me if I'm seeking a certain answer, because a lot of the times that I am seeking, like I said before, it is seeking bigger picture things. It's not about mundane life, although I believe that is part of the spiritual journey. I try to always look beyond the mundane and into the bigger picture, matrix, karmic lesson, you know, the energy that's at play, those kind of things, the messages that are being given to me either in my thoughts or the visions that I see in my head, or the reasons why I'm so attracted to something, or the dream that I just had. What was that message? Why did that sigil just cross in front of my face? You know, what is trying to be, who is giving me these messages and guiding me along? Is it my higher self? Is it a past loved one? Is it, I seek that, and I get that so much in this deck, in these two decks. I do in other decks too, like I said. It, you know, I have so many decks that I feel I get that from so many different decks, but these are the ones off of the top of my head that I rounded it down to. So, yes, that was the Priestess, Mystic, Spiritual Work decks. Okay, so the next one is the Elder. And this is the decks that give you sage advice decks. And this is the one that I have, 3. So for the tarot, I just really could not pick between these two. So I just said I'm going to just put them both. And the other one is newer to my collection, but it's an oracle. But I had to add it. I had to add it somewhere because, oh my gosh, when I started looking at all of these images, it's like it opened up something. It felt like these were also my ancestors. They are all of our ancestors, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, the Druid Craft. And I do want to get the bigger deck. I have modified mine in a green and cut it down, cut everything down off of it. Another inspiration by Dawn Michelle. She inspires me so much. I just love her. And this is her tag. But this definitely feels like getting advice from my ancestors and people that have come before. And, you know, like getting ancient ancestral, yes, but also just ancient advice from people that lived a couple centuries ago. You know, it's very like historical, and all of the things that they had to fight through in order to bring about change, you know. So this is one of those decks that it feels like it's coming from a source. When I channel the readings from this deck, it feels like it's coming from a definite place of ancient wisdom and my elder. And then, excuse me, and then, of course, the Tarot of the She. This definitely feels like the She race, right? I mean, of course, it's Tarot of the She. But I mean, I feel like they are really, really talking to me through this deck. And it feels like just such profound messages and sage advice, and actually traveling into that other realm that has maybe, you know, a millennia gone through what we are going through now, and they have already, like, the messages that they have for us are trying to help ease us through this transformative time in our Earth's history and its people's history, and trying to help us with that, you know, with getting back to nature. And this is like the portal that you can use in order to travel. But if it were just that, one of the things that I also love about this deck so much, and it feels like such great elder advice, is I feel like this deck was created by a person who was so much in touch with these beings. Emily Carding, right? So much in touch with these beings that they were speaking through her in a direct download kind of thing. And even the way that she talks about the different, as she was creating the deck, because the book is so good. This book is so good, and it's so easy to get through. But these messages on here, like for instance, let's say, let's do a dreamer, like Dreamer 9, okay? The power to make our own dreams true can be of blessed or cursed hue. From dream's own breath, the clawed hand grows, and a landscape wrought of life's harsh blows. I hope I did that right, because this is kind of little and I don't have my glasses on. But the words can suck you in also into that beautiful, just like major sage advice of a people that came before and that are still here, but that came before, that have been through, I feel like, much of the things that we are going through now. And they really do have a lot to offer us as far as advice, if we truly, truly listen with not just our ears, but with our hearts and our spirits. And then we get to the Tree Whisper Oracle by Maggie Black. Oh my gosh, just look at the backs already. It is so beautiful. It feels like stepping into their world, the world of the trees. And this is such a simple, like the words that she uses. I mean, I've got goosebumps right now. Every time I use this, and this is a newer deck for me, every time I use it, and I'm not even always using them in any other thing but just drawing a card and seeing how, I mean, even like one after another, just drawing them and see what it says to me on an intuitive level. Gosh, it's like the elders are really, really speaking speaking through these cards, like transmissions almost. It feels like a transmission. Like when you're like looking through these, it's almost like I get downloads. It's almost like, you know, seeing these elders. And there was a study that I had heard of. I can't remember where, because I take in so much information, it gets jumbled. I don't remember the sources, resources. I should do better, but it is what it is. But this study was of plant life and talking to like different plants, or having different music, and or having like different kinds of microphones against, or what was it? Not microphones, but where it picks up like frequency and stuff like that, that was being emitted by these different plants. I think one was like a sunflower, and it was emitting something. Like they talk to each other, they talk to us. Just like I think of, you know, like I said in my previous video, the Tradwitch tag, like I had talked about how I believe that the planets transmit things to us through signals, and where their placements are in comparison to where we are on the earth, it can affect us. So that's why I am not just about astrology, but I'm also about astronomy and the merging of those two systems together to make it fit for me, you know. And I feel the same way about trees. I feel the same way about our hair, and like our dream state, that we get and are sent certain signals, frequencies, different brain waves, and how that affects us. I believe that trees are like antennas, and they have so much to tell us. And I'm just like, this is a new thing for me, and it's just like kind of floored me when Summer came to visit. Summer was really big into the trees, and she had talked about it in her video after she visited, but seeing all the different faces and the spirits in the trees, and I was just like so enamored by that. She's just such a natural, beautiful lady. But Mags is the same way. I would watch Mags as she was going through like all of her different videos as she's walking with her beautiful Toby, who's now passed, but I would watch them as they would walk through the forest, and just these, she's just so insightful. She is so insightful and deep. And this also comes through in this deck. I mean, she is just like nature personified. She's beautiful. And so this deck, yeah. Okay, so on to the next prompt, which is the teacher. So this is a study deck, and I'm sorry, I know that this is running on a little bit longer, and if you're still here with me, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. I know I'm kind of windy today, but I'm really loving this tag. So my teachers, and let me just say, I use many of my decks as teachers. Many of my decks are for learning, not for necessarily reading with. Now, it's not that I can't also read with some of them, but some of them I specifically bought because I felt like I could learn so much from that. As if somebody, in the same essence as somebody with a library continues to read more books. I like decks, especially ones that have really good books, because there's so much to learn, and you're learning from that creators and or that the illustrator, as well as the creator of that deck, how they see it. And that is just always, in my opinion, a beautiful thing. And I could not put Spirit Keepers as the tarot part of that. And then I have also the Archetypes deck, the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck for the Oracle. And another Oracle that I just recently got from, I had seen this several times. I had just never pushed the button. I seen Helki Rain do it on her channel, talk about it, and how it was good for shadow work, I believe is what one of the decks. So that she had talked about. She had included in that. And so I just got that. But I can tell that there's going to be lots to learn from that. And I'm only just going to briefly go through this one, Spirit Keepers, because pretty much everybody that I know of knows about this deck and knows who Benabel Wen is and how brilliant she is and how she likes to incorporate so many different things into this deck. It could be, and I believe that any deck can be a huge source of study, but this one I believe was not only designed to be used, but also for study, you know, because she had so many different cultures and religions and I can't remember what this is, but she has these for the I Ching, and she's also got the, it's very much a spell deck as well, and it can be used in magic, and it's very heavily into occult information, and she also pulls from different systems that she puts in the book. She talks about those different systems and also the astrological associations, and the deacons are all in this. But it is just a beautiful, beautiful deck in the symbology, and yeah, love this deck so much. And mine was 555. I mean, even that was very symbolic for me. So this deck and the big book of maps that it comes with is just a wonderful resource, and it was a wonderful deck to study. The archetypes. I'm very curious about archetypes, and I'll tell you, a couple of years ago when I was having family issues and, social media issues with family members, it affected me so drastically that I ended up with a horrible case of gout, and it kept going back and forth in my feet. But I know that it was something that was psychological for me, stressful. Stress brought it on, because even when I had x-rays and my blood work done, my levels for the uric acid were normal, but I still had it in my feet. So I think a lot of it was psychosomatic, or however you want to say that. It was psychological. And because of stress and stuff, I was bedridden pretty much for 2.5 months. So I did so much shadow work in those 2.5 months, more so than what I was like seeking it out and just doing readings and readings and readings. And this was one of the decks that really, really, and I had discovered more things about myself. And that's why I say I find that a lot of people, and this is no offense to anybody, this was also myself, that I believe that religion has been a huge impact on creating this like savior complex in people, including myself, because we were taught you're supposed to go out and spread the good word, and it is our responsibility if somebody is not following the Christian path and devotes themselves to God, they're just going to burn in hell. So we're responsible for their soul, And so I believe that movement in itself, Christianity or other religions, creates these savior complexes in us, like that it is our responsibility to save people or to teach people, or like we have all the knowledge, and it's our responsibility to educate people. And I was one of those people for the longest time, that I thought that but it's not just even that. Even I feel like a lot of the New Age movement as well, with these star seeds and mission-based stuff, also, it makes me feel like there is so much shadow in that has to be revealed as well, because you also feel like, well, if I am a starseed from here, this is what my mission is, and I'm supposed to help raise the vibration. And I think that people get so much in that mindset that they lose. I feel like that's just like so egotistical. And I was one of those people. I felt like it was my responsibility to whatever was being given to me, that I had to turn around and tell other people about it. And now, after so much shadow work and continued, it's a never, and in my opinion, it's a never ending thing. It's not a one and done thing. That, you know, I honestly thought that my research was the truth, because that's where I was being led. When, you know, I think that even for the starseeds, in my opinion, it's really about just doing the best that we can do for ourselves, and just focusing on ourselves and raising our own vibration, and thereby affecting other people, not telling them what they're doing wrong, not trying to be like that ultimate teacher, but just a teacher of your own stuff. And learning about archetypes and shadow work really revealed that to me. And this was a critical deck in that. I couldn't believe it. I was like shocked. That was just one of the many things that I had discovered about myself a couple of years ago, you know? And it continues. I'm not saying that it just stopped then. It continues. I'm always finding. But I feel like if you're constantly doing self-reflection and constantly doing like work on yourself through like a monthly or daily practice, trying to know thyself, you're going to get a lot of shadow work in that as well, truly. But this was one of those decks that helped me with that, and continues to help me, as well as this one I'm looking forward to, because I believe that there are so many like hero archetypes, you know, that fit into that hero archetype. So anyways, moving on. I'm sorry, I know this has been a long video. Okay, so the next prompt is the Outsider, deck that doesn't belong. Okay, so now the two that I picked for that was Tarot of the Abyss and the Reclaim Oracle. And they do belong, but in the beginning, I sat on this one, not getting this one for the longest time. And it wasn't until I had seen other people in the way that they had used this, namely like Lisa Papez, formerly Supportive Tarot, and Dawn Michelle Boho Tarot, and the way I love when they do their videos, because their videos, when they do like reviews and stuff like that, they get so in depth with the books and how they use them. And Dawn Michelle shows how she uses them in her practice, not to mention being a member of her Boho Weavers and the monthly practice that she does. She is so phenomenal in helping people, helping myself discover through, you know, working, you know, through having a practice all the time. And it has made a huge difference for me. But I was never drawn to this artwork. But after seeing how it worked and the profound messages that it has also been another one of those decks that I never thought I would have in my practice. And now I just treasure it. I treasure this deck because it is such a good deck for shadow work and you know, child traumas and self-love, and it's not about the artwork. It's about so much more than the artwork, although the artwork now, it has grown on me. And another reason why it's one of those things that I don't necessarily like is because it is so limited in its color palette. That is also usually an issue for me. And that is why the Tarot of the Abyss, because I love Antorian's work. I love the Earthstone, or the Bone Stone and Earth Flesh. But I wasn't sure how I would feel about this, because there's no color. It's just like sepia and, black. Off-white and black. But oh my gosh, just in the like drawing or line work or whatever you want to call it, this deck is so profound. So although it was something that I originally, the artwork looked really good, I was thinking, I'll just get it because I don't want to miss out on it. And I do love the drawing part of it, but it almost felt incomplete to me because there was no color added to it. But sometimes life is not about the color. It's about what's behind that. And that's what this deck does for me. It's about like uncovering stuff that you maybe don't see because you're too enamored by all the pretty colors and all the pretty things. And so this deck is, readings that I have gotten from this deck have been surprisingly deep and revealing. And I'm blown away. And I do not have many decks that have like a very limited color palette. And this is one of them. That's why I say it was like an outsider that became like very close counselor or friend, All right, so the next one is The Stranger. New decks in the village. So 2 of my newest decks that I friggin' love, but I know that I have so much to really dig into with these books, is the Pythonic Tarot, because I'm really feeling a pull towards a couple of different, dark goddesses. And the artwork is amazing. I love that it's encompassed in the black, believe it or not. I love that. It feels like it makes the colors just pop. And I am all for exploring what these decks have to reveal to me about who I believe has been trying to contact me, and that I have been drawn to. And it's these 2 decks. And this one is the from the same creator. I got them on Etsy, and it's the Black Mirror Oracle by Jessica Shaw. So these are the two, not the newest. I have other ones, but the ones that I wanted to bring about, because a lot of the goddesses that I have followed have not been considered like dark goddesses. Although the more and more I learn about myself and try to be less dualistic, and more integrating of the shadow and the light, I realize that I want to learn more about some of these dark, who are perceived as dark goddesses, because I believe that it is through the shadow that we come out on the other side, the light. So yeah, so that is my It Takes a Village 2022. And this is a VR2 Boho Tarot. I believe the first time that I seen it was on Cortney's channel. So I'll be putting a link to both of theirs. I loved this tag so much. Thank you if you are still with me. My goodness, I appreciate you so much. I am sending you love always. Thank you.